I don't have friends at work. I have audit logs. Friends lie to you about your weekend plans. Audit logs tell you exactly who was in the building at 3:17 hours and why they tried to export 2.7 TB of classified data to a server farm in Beijing. That's my love language. I'm Lucas Hartwell, 48 years old, Senior Cyber Compliance Officer at Ironclad Defense Systems. If that title sounds boring to you, congratulations. You probably have a social life. But to the people who matter, the Department of Defense, the NSA, and the stone-faced auditors who decide whether this company lives or dies, I am the last line of defense between national security and corporate stupidity. I spent 12 years in the Air Force working signals intelligence before transitioning to federal contracting. 20 years total keeping systems secure under DoD 8570 protocols. I've learned one universal truth. The biggest threat to national security isn't some advanced persistent threat actor in a Moscow basement. It's a C-suite executive who thinks password 123 meets NIST security standards. It was Tuesday, 0630 hours, when everything went sideways. The kind of Tuesday that feels like it's been soaked in gray paint and left to dry. I was 3 hours into reviewing SIEM logs for our most secure server, Node 12, an air-gapped fortress that houses if World War III starts, read this first tactical datasets. Most people think cybersecurity is like the movies, green code cascading down screens, techno music pumping. Reality is me, lukewarm black coffee, and security information event management dashboards that span 3 monitors. Ironclad Defense handles tactical logistics for the Army. We predict supply chain vulnerabilities for armored vehicle deployment. We model troop movement optimization based on real-time weather patterns and terrain analysis. We house data that, if compromised, gets soldiers killed in the field. That's not dramatic language. That's the mission statement on my security clearance paperwork. I was analyzing network traffic patterns when I saw it. A jagged spike in what should have been a flat baseline. Someone had initiated an unauthorized handshake with Node 12's gateway. The timestamp showed 04:23 hours. Middle of the night when the building should have been locked down tighter than Fort Knox. The intrusion attempt originated from account devroot07, a legacy administrative key that should have been permanently disabled 5 years ago during our last FISMA compliance audit. Seeing it active was like coming home to find a stranger wearing your dress blues and reading your classified briefings. I picked up my secure VoIP line, the kind that looks like it belongs in a submarine's command center, and speed-dialed Isaiah Brooks, our IT director. Isaiah's solid people, former Navy cryptologic technician, but he has the backbone of wet tissue paper when senior management walks through his door. Isaiah, I said, bypassing pleasantries like a proper military briefing. Why is devroot07 showing active status? And why is it attempting to penetrate Node 12's perimeter? Dead silence. Then, Lucas, I didn't authorize any ghost key reactivation. The work order came from the executive level, like corner office with the mahogany desk level. My gut dropped like a failed parachute deployment. Isaiah, I don't care if that authorization came from the Joint Chiefs themselves. That account doesn't possess clearance for TS-SCI data access. Who signed off on the reactivation protocol? He hesitated like someone about to deliver casualty reports. It was Mason Caldwell. I closed my eyes and applied pressure to my temples hard enough to leave fingerprints. Mason Caldwell, the CEO's 26-year-old son, recently appointed Chief Innovation Officer despite having 0 security clearance, and a resume consisting of 2 cryptocurrency ventures that crashed harder than a meteor strike. Mason had been prowling around our facility for months, spouting buzzwords about disrupting legacy paradigms and leveraging artificial intelligence synergies. I mostly ignored him the way you ignore static on a radio frequency, until the static gains administrative access to nuclear launch protocols. Mason doesn't possess the requisite security clearance, Isaiah, I said, pulling up our access control matrices on my secondary workstation. Mason can barely navigate his browser cache without technical support. Why does he have root-level system privileges? Direct orders from his father, Isaiah replied, sounding like someone reporting friendly fire incidents. CEO Oliver Caldwell marched into my office yesterday at 1400 hours, said Mason required unrestricted operational access to compile his presentation for next week's Pentagon Liaison Review. He stated our security protocols were inhibiting innovative development cycles. The cold realization hit me like incoming artillery. This wasn't just a policy violation or compliance oversight. This constituted a direct breach of international traffic in arms regulations. This represented violation of our multi-million-dollar contract with the Department of Defense under Section 809 of the National Defense Authorization Act. If Mason had extracted classified tactical data and transferred it to an unsecured system, or worse, uploaded it to some commercial cloud platform, Ironclad Defense wouldn't just lose our federal contracts, we would cease to exist as a corporate entity. People would be wearing orange jumpsuits in federal correctional facilities. I monitored my primary display as real-time alerts populated the screen. The unauthorized probe had escalated beyond reconnaissance. A new notification flashed in bright red. Data extraction protocol initiated. Transfer volume 2.7 TB. Destination external IP address. My blood temperature dropped to Arctic levels. Mason was actively siphoning classified Army tactical logistics data out of our secure environment. This wasn't exploration or curiosity. This was wholesale. Data exfiltration of materials that could compromise ongoing military operations worldwide. I didn't charge down to the CEO's corner office. I didn't raise my voice or wave policy manuals like an angry drill instructor. That's amateur hour tactics. Instead, I accessed a hardened terminal that operates on a completely isolated network from our corporate infrastructure. I inserted my common access card and entered my 64-character cryptographic authentication key. I began composing an incident report, not to Human Resources, not to the Board of Directors, but directly to the National Security Agency's Cyber Threat Intelligence Integration Center. Subject classification: unauthorized TS/SCI data compromise. Priority alpha response required. I was about to strike a match while sitting on top of a munitions depot, but I wasn't the one who had poured gasoline everywhere and lit cigarettes. That distinction belonged entirely to Mason Caldwell and his enabling father. The next morning brought an all-hands formation with the energy of a pre-deployment briefing where someone forgot to mention the mission was suicidal. The email invitation featured a rocket ship emoji and subject line "Innovation Breakthrough." All personnel mandatory attendance. I despise emojis in corporate communications. They're the digital equivalent of a nervous laugh before delivering casualty reports. We assembled in the main conference facility, a glass and steel monument to defense contractor prosperity. CEO Oliver Caldwell stood on the elevated briefing platform wearing a suit that cost more than my annual uniform allowance during my Air Force days. He projected the confidence of a silver-haired predator who'd just secured exclusive hunting rights to a particularly rich territory. Positioned beside him was Mason, wearing designer denim and a t-shirt emblazoned with "Disrupt" in bold letters. He clutched a tablet like it contained launch authorization codes for the entire nuclear arsenal. "Personnel," Oliver announced, his voice reverberating off the glass walls with the authority of someone accustomed to unquestioned command. For too long, Ironclad has operated in reactive mode. We've prioritized safety. We've emphasized compliance. He pronounced compliance like it was synonymous with tactical retreat under enemy fire. Multiple heads rotated toward my position. I maintained operational security posture, the expression of a seasoned NCO watching recruits violate every safety protocol in the manual while handling live ordnance. But operational success requires calculated risk-taking. Oliver continued his briefing, and my son Mason represents our next-generation strategic capability. Mason advanced to the microphone, adjusting eyeglasses that were obviously non-prescription psychological warfare props designed to project intellectual authority he didn't possess. "Thanks, Dad, Oliver," Mason began, triggering synchronized laughter from the executive staff seated in the front formation. "Look, I've been conducting deep analysis of our information systems for the past 72 hours, and frankly, I'm experiencing tactical shock. We're operating with data compartmentalization everywhere. We're maintaining air gaps that belong in Cold War archives. Information requires freedom of movement, people. Data wants operational mobility. I suppressed a physical reaction that would have violated my professional bearing. Information wants to be free represents excellent ideology for hacktivist manifestos. It constitutes catastrophically dangerous philosophy for organizations managing classified troop positioning schedules and logistics coordination data. I'm formally announcing Operation Liberation, Mason continued, conducting what appeared to be a motivational presentation rather than a military-style briefing. I've successfully extracted raw intelligence datasets from Node 12, Affirmative, the classified tactical repositories, and integrated them with a revolutionary artificial intelligence processing platform. We're positioned to deliver real-time strategic intelligence that will fundamentally transform modern military operations. The conference hall achieved absolute silence. Software engineers studied their footwear with the intensity of bomb disposal specialists examining suspicious packages. Project coordinators observed me with expressions typically reserved for passengers aboard the Hindenburg watching hydrogen ignition commence. Mason had just admitted, before 200 company personnel, that he'd committed wholesale theft of classified military intelligence and uploaded it to an unsecured commercial AI platform. Probably some Silicon Valley startup's cloud server farm protected by administrative passwords like Innovation 123 and staffed by computer science graduates who considered cybersecurity an optional elective course. Now, Mason declared with predatory satisfaction, establishing direct visual contact with my position, I acknowledge some of our legacy personnel maintain religious devotion to their firewall systems. Our compliance officer, Lucas. Where are you positioned, Lucas? He targeted me with an extended finger. Every person in the assembly executed a synchronized head movement toward my location. I refused to break eye contact. I maintained position with arms secured across my chest, projecting the operational energy of a master sergeant observing trainees attempting to field strip weapons while blindfolded and intoxicated. Lucas operates under the tactical assumption that security requires locking everything in underground bunkers, Mason stated, his voice saturated with condescension thick enough to stop small arms fire. But my strategic assessment indicates security means velocity. If our operational tempo exceeds enemy capabilities, defensive fortifications become obsolete. Therefore, effective immediately, I'm implementing override protocols for legacy access restrictions. The Innovation Division receives administrative privileges across all systems, no additional authorization tickets, no delays waiting for Sergeant Firewall to approve routine keystrokes. Oliver initiated enthusiastic applause. That represents the forward-thinking leadership this organization requires. Let's execute this mission. The formation dispersed with personnel avoiding eye contact as they returned to workstations. They recognized a casualty when they encountered one, and their assessment indicated I was the designated victim. I returned to my office and immediately initiated comprehensive audit trail analysis. Mason hadn't fabricated his claims. He'd executed exactly the operations he'd described. At 0423 hours, DevRoot Zoros 7 had processed mass extraction commands targeting our most sensitive databases. Network monitoring logs indicated an upload data stream directed toward an external IP address registered to NeuralSync AI Solutions, a startup company that probably secured their server infrastructure using duct tape, wishful thinking, and a cybersecurity team consisting of one individual named Chad, who'd completed a single online course titled Basic Network Protection for Dummies. My hands exhibited slight tremor activity, not from fear or anxiety, but from comprehending the absolute magnitude of operational stupidity I was witnessing. Mason had transferred top-secret/sensitive compartmented information directly to a third-party artificial intelligence company that likely maintained security protocols equivalent to a public library's guest Wi-Fi network. I captured forensic screenshots, exported complete packet analysis logs, and preserved video documentation of Mason's public confession during the morning briefing. Then I transmitted an updated situation report to my established NSA contact. Agent Gabriel Stone and I have never shared coffee or conducted social interactions, but we maintain an intimate professional relationship founded on mutual understanding that human beings consistently demonstrate remarkable capacity for catastrophic decision-making. I composed Priority Alpha Incident Update. Subject has publicly acknowledged data exfiltration during recorded company briefing. Video evidence attached. Classified tactical intelligence currently hosted on unsecured commercial artificial intelligence platform with potential foreign access vectors. The encrypted response channel activated immediately. Situation report acknowledged. Federal response protocols initiated. Directive: maintain passive surveillance. Repeat: do not attempt intervention. Federal assets mobilizing. Do not attempt intervention. That represented the most challenging aspect of this entire operation. Mason was conducting victory celebrations throughout the office facility. operating under the delusion he'd achieved Steve Jobs-level technological breakthrough status. He possessed zero awareness that a federal targeting acquisition system was currently painting infrared laser designators on his operational position. The psychological discipline required to maintain cover while watching imminent justice deployment was testing every leadership principle the Air Force had drilled into my operational mindset during 12 years of active duty service. 2 hours later, my secure desk phone executed its distinctive double ring pattern. Caller identification displayed Sophia Wells, VP Human Resources. Sophia maintained an office decorated with motivational posters featuring kittens and rainbow inspirational quotes, but possessed the operational ruthlessness to terminate a pregnant employee for exceeding authorized bathroom break duration. Lucas, she transmitted with artificial sweetness that could substitute for high fructose corn syrup, can you report to my office for immediate consultation? Please bring your security badge and access credentials. Bring your badge and credentials. Universal corporate terminology, meaning you're about to become a casualty statistic. I conducted movement down the corridor past multiple rows of software developers frantically attempting to integrate Mason's artificial intelligence disaster into their stable operational systems. They projected stress indicators, consistent with combat engineers trying to defuse improvised explosive devices while under active sniper fire. They sensed catastrophic system failure approaching, but possessed mortgage obligations and family financial responsibilities. Upon entering Sophia's office, I observed CEO Oliver Caldwell positioned near the window overlooking the parking facility, gazing outward with the contemplative expression of Napoleon Bonaparte reviewing battlefield terrain before decisive engagement. Mason occupied a guest chair, conducting smartphone activities with the bored demeanor of someone enduring mandatory safety briefings about obvious hazards. Assume position, Lucas, Sophia directed, indicating an empty chair with hand signals. I executed proper seating posture, military bearing maintained, hands positioned in regulation interview stance, projecting the disciplined presence developed through 12 years of standing inspection-ready formations. Lucas, Oliver initiated without establishing visual contact. We've been conducting strategic assessment of organizational culture and future operational direction. He finally rotated to face me, eyes displaying the thermal signature of winter Arctic conditions. Our evaluation indicates you no longer represent optimal cultural integration. Your behavioral patterns during this morning's briefing, the disapproving facial expressions, the negative body language projections, multiple personnel reported these observations. Such conduct undermines command authority structure. I maintained complete silence during the briefing, Oliver. I responded with measured tone control. That constitutes the primary problem, Mason interjected, discarding his mobile device onto Sophia's desk surface. You constantly project menacing presence. You're like persistent stormfront systems, Lucas. I'm attempting innovative development and you're just positioned there, radiating disapproval energy. We require affirmative organizational culture. I directed focused attention toward Mason's position. Mason, you uploaded classified military tactical logistics intelligence to a public artificial intelligence platform. That doesn't constitute negative organizational culture. That represents federal criminal activity. Oliver executed aggressive hand impact against desk surface. Negative. This represents exactly the problematic attitude I'm addressing. You maintain obsessive focus on operational obstacles. Mason represents visionary strategic thinking. You represent obsolete legacy systems. So my termination results from upholding compliance standards explicitly outlined in our federal contracting agreements, I inquired. The admission needed documentation for legal proceedings. Your employment termination results from insubordination and creating hostile workplace environmental conditions, Sophia interjected with bureaucratic precision, sliding documentation across the desk surface. We're providing 2-week separation pay if you execute signature on this non-disparagement agreement. I examined the paperwork briefly. 2 weeks compensation for 20 years of maintaining their corporate existence outside federal correctional facilities. I will not be executing signature on that document, I stated, assuming standing position. Oliver produced laughter that sounded like artillery shells detonating in empty bunkers. Execute your preferred course of action. You depart with 0 compensation. Transfer your security badge and access credentials immediately. I accessed my jacket interior and removed my identification card, the laminated rectangular authorization that had provided access to the most classified facilities in the continental United States for 2 decades. I positioned it carefully on Sophia's desk surface with the reverence typically reserved for folding the American flag at military funeral ceremonies. You're executing a strategic error, Oliver, I stated. Not a threat or intimidation. A factual assessment, like reporting weather conditions or ammunition inventory levels. The only strategic error I executed was failing to terminate your employment sooner. He responded with contempt that could penetrate body armor. Security personnel will escort you to the exit. The movement toward the lobby felt like a memorial procession. Dave, the security guard who'd received donuts from me every Friday for 10 years, walked behind me with optical focus directed toward his footwear. He projected shame and regret. I experienced no such emotional responses. When the glass entry doors sealed behind me, humid Alabama atmospheric conditions contacted my facial surface. I approached my pickup truck, activated the electronic locks, and assumed position in the driver's seat. Complete auditory silence surrounded me. My encrypted communication device vibrated. Message from Agent Stone. Employment status verification required. I transmitted response. Termination completed. Badge surrendered. All access revoked. The reply materialized instantaneously. Acknowledged. You are now classified as protected witness under federal statute. Return to residence. Maintain normal behavioral patterns. Federal assets are achieving operational positioning. I initiated engine startup procedures. During departure from the parking facility, I observed Mason through the fourth-floor window, executing animated gesturing towards someone, probably explaining his revolutionary plans to transform modern warfare using algorithms he couldn't define or comprehend. He operated under the assumption he'd achieved victory. He believed he'd successfully eliminated the organizational cancer preventing progress and innovation. He failed to recognize I wasn't the cancer threatening the system. I represented the immune response, and he'd just suppressed the only defensive mechanism preventing the infection from achieving complete host termination. I conducted vehicle movement toward my residence, a purposefully quiet facility. My daughter was completing advanced degree requirements at Auburn University, pursuing education studies, a career field with minimal classified information exposure. I preferred the solitary environment. That afternoon, I assumed position in my kitchen facility, observing steam vapor rising from fresh black coffee preparation. At 14:47 hours, my hardened laptop generated incoming communication alert. Not standard email. Direct encrypted video connection request. The security handshake protocol required 45 seconds to establish authenticated connection. The display screen presented Agent Gabriel Stone positioned in what appeared to be an underground command bunker. He projected the physical characteristics of someone carved from granite composite materials. No facial expressions indicating humor, no conversational preliminaries, pure mission-focused professionalism. Mr. Hartwell, he stated, voice producing acoustic signatures resembling gravel under heavy vehicle treads. Agent Stone, I acknowledged. We have achieved complete network mirroring of ironclad system infrastructure, Stone reported. We've maintained continuous surveillance of Mason Caldwell's activities for 8 hours. He's currently attempting to integrate tactical logistics databases with GPT-4 API interfaces. He believes he's developing an AI military advisor. He's actually feeding classified supply chain routing data into public language processing models. I executed optical closure and applied facial pressure. The situation had deteriorated beyond my worst-case scenario assessments. You need to execute immediate shutdown protocols, Agent. We have established containment perimeters, Stone interrupted my recommendation. We've isolated his network connection. He believes he's accessing the global internet, but he's actually operating within a controlled simulation environment we've constructed. He's transmitting data to us, not to hostile intelligence agencies. But he possesses no awareness of this containment. Relief flooded through my system like cool liquid under desert conditions. Tomorrow represents the Pentagon Liaison Review Board meeting, correct? Stone continued his operational briefing. Affirmative. 1400 hours. They're expecting Colonel Patricia Hayes from Army Logistics Command. Excellent. Colonel Hayes will execute her scheduled appearance, and so will I. Stone leaned forward with the intensity of someone planning precision airstrikes. Technically, Mr. Hartwell, you maintain civilian status. But effective immediately, I'm activating you under Title 50 authority as specialized consultant. You're reinstated, not by ironclad defense, but by the United States government under federal operational mandate. What mission parameters do you require? Nothing, Stone stated. That represents the most challenging aspect for personnel like you, Lucas. You want to execute repairs. You want to patch security breaches. I need you to allow the system to deteriorate completely. I need you to arrive at the target facility tomorrow at 13:45 hours. Park across the street. Await my signal." "They confiscated my security badge," I reminded him. "You won't require badge access where you're going," Stone said. "We're conducting a federal compliance audit, Lucas, and I want you present to witness the accountability review." The screen terminated connection. I remained seated for extended duration, processing the strategic implications. My residence maintained its purposeful quietude, but the atmospheric conditions felt charged with electrical potential. I considered Oliver's arrogant expression when he terminated my employment. He'd classified me as obsolete legacy equipment. He'd labeled me an operational obstacle. He possessed zero awareness that while he was playing checkers with his son's career development, the NSA was executing 4D chess strategies involving his entire organizational existence. I spent the evening conducting maintenance on my service pistol, not for any operational deployment, just for the meditative discipline of weapons care. There's something deeply satisfying about field stripping firearms while knowing that federal justice mechanisms are assembling to eliminate your adversaries through legal channels. I prepared my finest shirt for the next day's operations, crisp white cotton with military precision creases. The uniform specifications might have changed, but the standards remained constant. I achieved sleep state like someone who knows regulations are finally going to achieve proper enforcement. The following morning, I positioned my pickup truck in the visitor parking area across from Ironclad Defense Systems. 1,330 hours, 15 minutes early, per Air Force punctuality protocols. I had my tablet computer positioned on the passenger seat. Stone had transmitted access credentials for their surveillance feed, live video streams from the executive conference facility. The visual presentation resembled a wedding reception planned by individuals with no aesthetic sensibilities. Catered pastries arranged on silver serving platforms, a dedicated coffee preparation station. The conference table, normally bare mahogany, was covered with white silk fabric that probably cost more than most personnel's monthly housing allowances. Oliver conducted pacing movements near the windows, checking his Rolex timepiece, rehearsing his presentation to an empty chair. "Colonel Hayes, what we have here isn't just operational improvement. It's a paradigm shift in defense analytics capabilities." Mason was connecting his laptop to the massive 85-inch presentation display, wearing his Disrupt t-shirt under a blazer, the uniform of someone too wealthy to respect dress code regulations. "Dad, the response time is incredible," Mason said, his voice transmitted through the surveillance microphone with slight audio distortion. "I asked it to model a supply disruption in the Taiwan Strait, and it generated a complete scenario analysis in under 4 seconds. Do you know how long Lucas's team would have required to produce that intelligence? Weeks." "Lucas represents yesterday's methodology," Oliver replied, adjusting his tie with the precision of someone preparing for promotion ceremonies. "You represent tomorrow's capabilities, son. Today we secure the contract that purchases us that Caribbean island property." Island property. They were discussing offshore tax haven strategies while committing federal espionage. It resembled watching someone plan vacation activities while actively robbing Fort Knox. The surveillance feed switched to lobby camera angles. Colonel Patricia Hayes entered wearing full dress blues, ribbons creating impressive displays across her chest. Flanking her were 2 military aides carrying briefcases secured with federal locks and tamper-evident seals. But behind them was the real tactical formation. 2 black Suburbans had achieved parking positions blocking the CEO-only designated spaces. 4 men emerged wearing poorly fitted Navy suits that broadcasted federal agent more effectively than neon signage. Agent Stone led the group, moving with predatory efficiency through the lobby entrance. The receptionist, Harper Davis, looked up with her standard bright smile. "Can I help you, gentlemen?" Stone displayed credentials I couldn't observe clearly through camera resolution, but I watched Harper's facial color drain like hydraulic fluid from a damaged aircraft. She didn't reach for communication devices. She just executed backward movement from her desk like she'd encountered explosive ordnance. Stone's team advanced toward elevator systems. They moved like sharks, efficient, purposeful, lethally focused. Back in the conference room, Mason was executing high-five gestures with Oliver. "It's showtime. Dad, time to secure the financial objectives." My phone vibrated. Text from Stone. Building secured. Execute entry protocol. I exited my vehicle. The sun was shining. Birds were conducting normal flight operations. It was a beautiful day for justice implementation. I crossed the street, boot heels creating steady rhythmic contact with asphalt surfaces. I didn't accelerate pace. I wanted to savor the anticipation like aged whiskey. In the lobby, Harper stood by her desk looking like she'd witnessed nuclear detonation. When she observed me approaching, her eyes expanded to dinner plate dimensions. "Lucas," she whispered, "I thought you were terminated. Who are those men?" They secured the elevators. "It's okay, Harper," I said calmly. "They're with me. Can you override the elevator security lockdown?" She hesitated, observing the federal agents positioned by the elevator bank. "Harper," I said gently, "do you trust me?" She looked at the men in suits, then returned visual contact to me. "Yes." She activated her master access card. The elevator doors opened with soft mechanical sounds. "Thank you," I said. "You might want to execute extended lunch break protocols. Maybe drive to that place across town. Take your time." The elevator ride achieved silence except for mechanical cable systems. I observed floor indicators climbing. 1, 2, 3, 4. The doors opened to an empty corridor. Mason's voice echoed from the open conference room discussing interface capabilities with his usual arrogant confidence. I approached the doorway and positioned myself just outside the frame, concealed in shadow areas. I wanted to hear his pitch. I wanted to witness the lie before truth executed door-breaching procedures. The rest happened exactly as federal justice should operate: swift, decisive, and absolutely final. When federal agents escorted Oliver and Mason Caldwell from the building in restraints, I watched from the conference room window. They moved with the defeated posture of prisoners of war. Oliver's expensive suit couldn't hide the fact he was heading to federal detention. Mason's disrupt t-shirt had become prophetic. He'd disrupted his own future. 3 hours later, the board of directors convened an emergency session. Jacob Reed personally offered me the position of chief security officer with complete operational autonomy. The compensation package, $185,000 annual salary, full equity participation, and direct reporting to the board with zero CEO oversight on security matters. I accepted. 6 months later, I sit in my corner office, the same one where Oliver fired me, reviewing quarterly security assessments. The irony isn't lost on me. Through my window, I can see the federal courthouse where Oliver Caldwell pled guilty to violations of the Espionage Act. 15 years in federal prison. Mason received 8 years and permanent security clearance revocation. His MBA program expelled him the day after his arrest. The company not only survived, but thrived. Our stock price recovered within 90 days of the leadership change. We secured 3 additional defense contracts worth $340 million. Turns out, competent security management appeals to government clients. Isaiah Brooks got his promotion to Deputy IT Director with a $40,000 raise. Harper Davis was promoted to Executive Assistant. The people who tried to do the right thing were rewarded. The system worked the way it was designed to work. I think about the morning Oliver called me obsolete. "Legacy equipment," he said, "an obstacle to progress." Today, I'm the reason 2,000 employees still have jobs and why classified military data stays classified. 20 years defending this country. Some battles in Air Force Blue, some in business suits. Same mission, protecting people who can't protect themselves. Same enemy, those who think rules don't apply to them because of money, connections, or inherited privilege. Tomorrow I start implementing the security protocols this place should have had from day one. Zero trust architecture, biometric access controls, automated threat detection with federal-level encryption standards, mission accomplished, threat neutralized. Next duty assignment, keeping soldiers alive and enemies guessing, while corporate executives learn to respect the regulations that keep them out of federal prison. That's how we do business when competence matters more than connections, when expertise trumps entitlement, and when federal law enforcement backs up the people who actually know what they're doing. Some lessons are expensive, some lessons are permanent, some lessons come with federal prison sentences, and some victories taste like lukewarm black coffee at 0600 hours knowing you've done the job right.